What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and it is time to react to those comments once again. Big up to the We Are Tottenham TV family who have been busy in the comment section once again. Let's see what they have to say for themselves.
All right, so you have been strong in the comments over the last 48 hours, and we start with Ramiro6507. He says, there should be no debate. If we win the Europa League, he has to be backed 100%. We would be top 5 title in the history of an almost 150-year-old club, meaning it's roughly a 1 in 30-year event. 17 years without a trophy. You'd get UCL football. If any fan was asked if they'd like a trophy and Champions League at the beginning of the season, they would have bought into that eyes closed. If we don't win, as much as I like Ange, he must leave. It's quite simple, to be honest.
So it's all just riding on, it's all just riding on a couple of games. I think it's important to look at the bigger picture, and you know, if you would say on the bare-faced things that, like, if I said to you a trophy and Champions League football, obviously everyone would have bit your hand off for that. But if you delve deeper and you say, well, what if that meant we finished 17th in the league and we had our worst Premier League campaign or our worst domestic campaign of all time? We suffered our most amount of losses ever since our inception. Like, these things got to be taken into account. And yeah, I understand winning the trophy would be our best kind of achievement since the 80s, mid 80s. 100%. I don't disagree with that. But I feel like first and foremost, you've got to be really judged on what the bread and butter is, and that is the league campaign. And in my opinion, I would still sack him at the end of the season. However, I could understand as well if they do keep him. If they do keep him, in my opinion, it's just prolonging the inevitable, and I think he will end up being sacked before the turn of the year next season. But look, I can understand it either way. It's just saying, in my opinion, I would probably still sack him at the end of the season.
But if we're going to look at, that's the bigger picture this season, but if we're looking at the bigger picture of his whole tenure, it would be one season finishing 5th, and then the second season winning the Europa League and getting Champions League football, while also having all those stats you're talking about. But also over a 2-year period, like, that would be a pretty successful 2-year period, wouldn't it?
I think, yeah, but I just can't overlook that the league campaign this year, 17, all those kind of stuff that I rolled off before, like, he's literally breaking records left, right, and centre of how bad he's been. Like, you can't stay in a job after that, in my opinion.
He would break records, but also break record about winning a trophy. That would also a record, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I would say thank you very much. I'll still look at him in a positive light because of it, and he'll always be remembered because of it. But I think time to move on.
For me, look, I think I would say, yeah, you're not wrong that when you finish as low as we're probably going to finish this season, and we've had the season that we've had this season. Obviously, for me, there are circumstances surrounding why that's happened, but it has happened, and it's happened under his watch, and he has to take responsibility for that 100%. But if he can win that trophy, and he obviously beginning the season, probably the goal was obviously to finish a lot higher in the league and probably challenge for the Champions League spots in the Premier League by merit. That would have been the goal. But considering everything that's happened this season, if he was to come away with it, with a Europa League trophy and our biggest trophy in 40 years and our first major European trophy in our lifetime, that would show me that what's happened this season, like, it's not, obviously it's salvaged in terms of getting Champions League football for next season, and in terms of the future and the trajectory of the club, it's kind of salvaged what's happened. And maybe it shows that, the circumstances surrounding the season have contributed to why we're in this position. It's not just because he's just awful and everything is bad. But obviously relying on a cup competition to prove that isn't also not the perfect measure. And you could definitely say, oh, maybe he got lucky, maybe it's not the that's not the perfect measure of a job you've had. But it's also fair to say, you look at previous managers and how they've fallen out of this competition, and they haven't exactly. It's like, I know this Europa League is maybe easier this season than previous seasons, but it's not like we've gone out to teams previously who are better than what we've beaten so far this season in the Europa League. So he would have shown something that other managers haven't been able to show, which is to go this far in the European competition and even win it, which other managers maybe have done better in the league, but they haven't done that. So I think I would still give him the benefit of the doubt if he were to win that Europa League for me. But
yeah, those things are true. And like I said, we would have a lot to thank him for sure, for winning the Europa League. And I'd always hold that very close to me moving forward, 100%. I don't disagree with that. But the reality is, you say he has that over other managers. Well, every single manager in our history will have at least one league campaign where they would have had better than, every single league campaign every manager have had in our history would have been better than the league campaign that we had this year. So, I mean, you look at all the dross managers that we've had in the past, Jerry Francis, Christian Gross, plenty others on there as well. Oscar Ardiles, who was clowned upon for the amount of losses that he had. These are all better than what Ange Postecoglou is doing this year in the league, which is just, it blows my mind. And with the players that we have the players he has at his disposal as well, it's nowhere near the levels.
But also goes the other way. You look at all the amazing managers we've had: Pochettino, Harry Redknapp, Mourinho, Conte, and the amazing players that they've had at their disposal: Harry Kane, a prime Son, Eriksen, Modric, Bale. All these amazing world-class players, which, are probably better than what we have right now. And they haven't been able to win a trophy like we could potentially win this year. If he does win it, obviously he has to win it. But if he does win it, none of those managers were able to do that at this club, and he would have been able to. So,
yeah, that's also true. That's also true. But the reality is, you look at, if you want to judge into Pochettino, Pochettino was very close to winning the highest prizes of all, Champions League final, second in the league, where, over the course of a 2-year period, we're the best team in the league. That is what you call consistency. And that's what you need to be as a manager of this football club with the players that you have at your disposal. You need to show consistency. And all those managers that you mentioned, they all showed consistency. Ange Postecoglou has never showed consistency. And yes, he's going to have a trophy behind his name, but is that enough to keep him at the club? Has he shown enough that he can be the long-term manager at this football club?
Well, if you take both these seasons into account, finish 5th in his first year and then won a trophy in his second, maybe he can.
Well, yes, he finished 5th, but we have never shown the consistency of the first 10 games ever since till present day. That's also the reality. And after the first 10 games of last season, we were not great. There were a few moments when we were great, and there are a few moments where, we went on a few runs, but nothing too special. But the reality is, from after the first 10 games till now, it's been nowhere near consistent. In fact, this season it's just been consistently bad.
Yeah, but there's been a massive shift in this club. We've been through it all, but we've known that with this club's been massively restructured in these last 2 years, and that comes with difficulties and that comes with problems that obviously we haven't dealt with them, and he hasn't dealt with them great at all. But if he comes out at the end of it with a trophy, that shows that maybe there is life there. I would say that's all I would say. Michael Cosmidis says the biggest bunch of whingers on the planet. First complaining the club doesn't give coaches a chance to rebuild a club, then piling onto the coach and club when they're doing just that. And all the while going through the biggest injury crisis the club has ever seen. During all of that, you were in a quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup, actually in a semi-final, and you were still currently in a semi-final of the Europa League. Get a grip. No team was going to be competitive against Liverpool today when making 8 first-team changes in the backline and midfield. This game was all about making sure you're good to go on Thursday and nothing more. All for all those morons asking why Mikey Moore isn't being played. It's simple. Ange is protecting the 17-year-old. He isn't physically ready for the league. He needs to be drip-fed games where the team is playing well and he has space to express himself comfortably on the pitch, or when he is older and more physically ready. in brackets, the club is protecting him. If you win the Europa League and you go on and win the Super Cup, that could be against Arsenal. If you win both of those, then all of this will be a distant memory. Especially if you beat Arsenal in the Super Cup. Stay the course. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Come on, you Spurs.
Well, I would say if we beat Arsenal in a Super Cup, then all would be forgiven. But but the reality is, judging by his record against Arsenal, we ain't beating them anytime soon. But there's two things I want to address there. First of all, the Liverpool comments. First of all, I don't think losing by that scoreline is the thing that really hurt us going into the game, because we all knew changes need to happen for this game, and we all knew we were going to get beat, and we all knew we were probably going to get beat quite heavily. That's not the issue here. The issue is that the players clearly gave up on the pitch. The issue is the manner of the defeat. The issue is how the players conducted themselves on that pitch. And I don't really have too much of the issue with getting beat convincingly. It's just the manner in which we went about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially, the least you can do is give everything and give your all. And it's hard to make the argument that they were doing that on that pitch yesterday. From what we could see, they just didn't seem to be running. A lot of these players, it was mostly, they were just being lazy. They weren't even trying to play football. They weren't trying to, I understand it's difficult when you're playing against a Liverpool side who are full of confidence, who are about to win the league. And, they have the edge on you physically because we have younger players and whatever. And a disjointed team, but the least you want is try and at least act like you're looking to play a bit of football and try to win the game, essentially. And it's like they didn't even bother. And when you've got fans travelling up to Liverpool, paying good money, then that's not acceptable.
Yeah. The other thing I want to address is the Mikey Moore comments. I do feel like we're not doing Mikey Moore as a justice in his kind of development at the moment, because if he's going to leave him out the first team, which is fair enough, if you don't feel he's ready, then he's not ready. Then, who am I to say I don't see him week in, week out on the training pitch? But if that is true, then you play him in the under-21s. He is playing no football right now. He's played like one game in the under-21s all season, which was like a couple of months ago now. He's not even making squads, and if he is, he's not coming on at all. Like, the guy is playing no football at all. That can't be good for his development.
Yeah, it seems like he's stuck in limbo. It's like we feel like he's too good for the under-21s, but then we don't feel like he's good enough for the first team. And so I'm assuming he's training with the first team, and I'm assuming, he's battling to get into the squad, but he's missing out. And then it means he's not in the under-21s for whatever reason, which I agree. I don't like. I think either he's a lot on good, put him on loan, or play him on the under-21s if you don't think he's in the first team. I agree with that. And the fact that he's not getting any football and he's just in this limbo state. And look, I'm sure training with the first team is probably helping him, but I would like to see him be playing regular football. And that's what you need when you're developing, I think, to get used to regular game time.
And also, like, with the performances that we saw from him in the Europa League, obviously we saw some top-level performances from him in the Europa League, like really top-level stuff. Why on the back of those, right? Why can't he just see at least like 10, 15, 20 minutes at the end of games, in games that mean essentially nothing right now? I don't get why not.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the argument would be, considering how we've been playing in Premier League games, it's not a great environment to chuck in a 17-year-old in. But obviously, he chucked in Archie Gray, but I think a 17-year-old who's a winger who's just developing, who we're not quite sure is physically ready yet for the Premier League, when you're chucking him into a team who are basically not down tools, or you could argue down tools, especially in Premier League games like the Liverpool game. What use would it be chucking him on in that game, that Liverpool game, for example, when we're just lumping it forward and not even trying? Is that a good environment to have him play? You know what I mean? So I guess that would be the argument.
If it's just to get him up to the physical levels, then why not? Like, what bad can it do to him? I don't understand. Like, you did it to Archie Gray. It's fine for Archie Gray. Bergval's starting week in, week out, and he's flourishing. So why not just give Gray give Moore some minutes? I just don't get it.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. Jacqueline 3679 says, I'm not entertaining the Ange in/out debate. Completely understand why people want him gone. Unfortunately, in/out doesn't seem to matter. This pattern has been repeating since we left White Hart Lane, and the trajectory is consistently downward every other season. We've 16, 17 second, 18, 19 fourth, 2021 7th, 2022, 23 8th. 24, 25, 16th or 17th. This squad has been mismanaged by directors of this football club, and every new coach is seemingly another failed appointment by the directors of this football club. If we want to rest a handful of players, this is how inexperienced our team is now. If we have a couple of injuries, this is what we look like, and we've recruited a squad that needs years of development, so we better get used to it. We do not have a single we do not have a single world-class player anymore, and we lost a world-class 11 from 8-9 years ago for what? Maybe a little less than 200 million. We are doing an Everton. Morons are running this football club down the division.
Yeah, I mean, judging by this season, it's hard to disagree with that. I do feel like the squad that we have are a lot better than what they're showing. In my opinion, the squad right now that we have should be a top 7 club minimum. It should be. And to finish where we're finishing is an absolute disgrace. And in terms of the hiring, firing, and all that every other year, I completely agree. I don't want to be hiring and firing managers every 2 years, but you can't just keep a manager on that premise. You have to show something, and you have to show that you're worthy of the job. And I just don't think he has done that.
Both in the Europa League is not showing something.
Look, it's good, but I think when you're looking at his whole look, we've been through this in the earlier comment, but I think if you look at his whole job, I don't think so. No, finishing 17th doesn't show that you're worthy of being a Tottenham manager.
You think this guy's comparing us to Everton? He said we're doing an Everton.
Well, we're actually below Everton.
Yeah, at the moment. But Everton have been in this kind of position for 3-4 years, maybe longer. I'm trying to think whenever they sacked Ancelotti, they've pretty much been around here ever since.
Yeah.
That's about 6 years. Do you think we're at risk of that happening to us?
I bloody hope not. We need someone to come and manage the team that can show the true level of the team and get us finishing in the top 7, probably where our squad reflects. So I think when you're looking at the Everton squad, they're probably a bottom half level squad. When you're looking at our squad, we're probably a top half level squad. So no, I don't agree.
I agree with that. Faz41 Spurs says, disappointing to see Bennett complaining when he was the one who was asking for all the changes for this match to save our key players. What did you expect to happen, mate? Thrash Liverpool with a weakened 11.
Like I said in the earlier comment, no, I didn't expect us to thrash them. No, I didn't expect us to win. I expected us just to show the fundamentals of football and fight for the badge. That's what I expected.
Yeah, and I think that's the least we can expect. But I guess the argument would be if you're going to change your whole 11 and you're going to put out a completely weakened team, then it's like isn't the manager just sending out a message that this game doesn't matter, I guess. So I guess in response to that, the argument would be, wouldn't changing 11 players for a game like that, especially ahead of a big game on Thursday, basically just imply, maybe even subconsciously, the filter through to the players that this game is just not that important, and maybe that's would lead to a performance like that.
The reality is yeah, maybe, but they're all professionals at the end of the day. You've got fans travelling up from London to watch it. You've got fans watching all over the world. Surely the players on the pitch should have a bit more professional pride about themselves and actually give a shit and want to give something back to the fans that have travelled all that way. I think it was disgusting the way that they managed themselves on the pitch. And whether it's an important game or not, you still got to try your hardest for the badge and for the fans. And that is literally the bare minimum that they could do.
Orlando Breloom says, if we get past Bodo, I hope the players are ready for their shiny new Europa League watches.
Don't you dare, Levy. Don't you dare.
Europa League finalists watch. You going to get one?
Do not dare, Daniel. Do not dare. You wait until that final is won and you can get the players all the presents that you want to get them. But before the final is played, don't even think about it.
100%. Ulster Yid says, so same guys that complain about Yol sacking and Jose sacking are the same guys saying sack the manager before a European semi-final. Just about sums up our fan base. I don't think Ange should stay, but sacking him now is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and also just quick follow up to that, 30-something Ryan says, why can't we sack him now? He sacked Jose 6 days before a cup final. This guy is 10 times worse. So two conflicting opinions there from 13-something Ryan and Ulster Yid. Where do you think it would be ridiculous to sack him now? Or do you think, seeing as he did sack Jose, it wouldn't be that ridiculous to sack him before a semi?
We all went hard in on the Jose sacking, at the timing of the Jose sacking. You can't sack a manager so close to such a big game, It's happened a few times at this club under Levy, right? He sacked George Graham a couple of days before that semi-final against Arsenal, which was a bad decision at the time, albeit we all kind of universally accepted George Graham needs to go, but the timing of it was all off. You can't sack him just before a semi-final of the FA Cup. Jose Mourinho, 6 days before a cup final in the Carabao Cup, where we all thought, like, this is why he's here, to win a trophy. Like, if you have Jose Mourinho for a game like that, we probably all accepted at the time that Jose needs to be sacked probably, but he needs to manage that cup final. So in terms of Ange Postecoglou, I feel like the timing of his sacking needs to be at the end of the season. I mean, I've said countless amount of times that we should sack him, but at the end of that Liverpool game, I think you asked me, would you sack him tonight? And I said, no, I think we need to give him until the end of the season now, because he's got us here in the semi-final now. Just let him play it out and see how it goes. So I think timing is key here. So I think just give him till the end of the season now. The timing for him to be sacked has come and gone, in my opinion.
And for me, as much as the painful Premier League games that have been, and maybe probably will be, the reality is we are doing pretty well in the Europa. Like, I think we've deserved to go through the last 2 rounds. I think Frankfurt, we deserve to win that game. So, like, if he's showing he can get a tune out of them in this Europa League, then you might as well keep him for the Europa League game to see if he can take us all the way, rather than sacking him before it, because we are doing quite well in Europa League. We are playing quite well. So if he's showing he can do a job in that competition, then I think it would be silly to risk sacking him for a guy we don't know who could do a job in that competition. We don't know for sure anyway. Alex Selby 349 says, poor Sim is getting battered like Spurs every week.
Sim gets battered everywhere he goes.
Again, we get the call-ins every week saying I'm deluded, crazy, for wanting him to have this Europa League. Well, we'll see if we win it. We'll see who has the last laugh. We'll see who gets battered in that final in May. Let's see. Chief and Chips 5646 says, Sim is logical. He has the Stone Cutter's Creed. I'm following the Stonecutter's Creed. I'm going to start telling that to people. Stelios is the noise. Sim cornered Stelios and wouldn't admit what he said about keeping Ange if Spurs wins Europa. Well, he did admit it in the end, Stel. But it's quite interesting that that Stel goes in hard on me and then says the same thing I say, that we should keep him if he wins the Europa League, albeit he didn't want to. He does want to entertain the possibility that Ange could win the Europa League, I guess, is the difference.
Yeah, he doesn't think he will win it. He doesn't think we're going to get past Bodo. So look, everyone has their own opinions about the way forward and what the best way forward is and what they think is going to happen from now until the end of the season. But look, we all just need to come together now surrounding this Europa League. The next game literally is this European semi-final. It's a massive week for the club. So no matter how you feel about Ange, no matter how you feel about the club, no matter what you think is going to happen, it's time to get behind the club, and it's time that everyone comes in as one and really tries to push this club over the line.
so obvious though. We're just in this cycle. We're going to beat Bodo like 2-0 or something on Thursday. And I was like, okay, give him the semi, give him the final. If he wins this Europa, he can do what he wants. And then we're going to lose to West Ham on Sunday. Go sack him before the semi, get rid of him. He's doing the 20th defeat, all this stuff. It's just it's a constant cycle. And until we get to that Europa League final, it's just going to continue, basically, I feel.
Look, it is what it is. If we're going to have to sit here and suffer through these Premier League games, people are inevitably going to get angry about them. That's just that is just the life of a football fan at the end of the day. And look, I don't understand like people like, oh, you're so angry when we lose and you're so happy when we win. Like, what the hell do you expect? Do you expect me to be happy when we lose and happy? And you know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm going to be angry when we lose and happy when we win. That's just the reality of life.
No, you got to be happy all the time, Ben, or sad all the time. You can't change your emotions.
Pick a lane.
Pick a lane. If you're angry when we lose, you can't be happy when we win. You have to be angry when we win.
You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous.
Michael George 630 says the Stimdramada paradox equals belief that pigs might fly when you actually know pigs can't fly. Look.
You picked out that comment, not me.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could piece out what that means, but the Stimdramada paradox. But
it's basically the same kind of notion. Is that look? I'm telling you, this is a bottle, right? I'm telling you, this is a bottle, but 9 times out of 10, you'll probably argue with me that this isn't a bottle.
Well, maybe it'll turn out not to be a bottle.
You see what I mean?
Well, look, we're in a Europa League semi. All I've been saying is he could win that. He's got a good chance of winning that competition. I think he can win that competition, and we should let him give him that chance to win that competition. And if he does, it would have been worth it. It would have been worth it, 100%. Yeah,
I agree. I agree with that. Like, it'll be worth it at the end of the season when we're dancing down Bilbao, the square in Bilbao.
Open top bus celebration, imagine.
Flying into Tottenham, that parade on Tottenham High Road. Everything will be, I would have, gone through all this shit to be, doing all of that. But it doesn't mean that he deserves to stay in a job, in my opinion. But look, regardless of that, what I really hate is the kind of notion of saying, oh, but if you wanted Ange out, you can't celebrate the wins and you can't celebrate a trophy. I mean, like, we've literally been dying for a trophy, a European trophy since 1984. If anyone thinks that a Spurs fan doesn't deserve to win a trophy after all the shit that they've been through just because of their opinion on a manager, I don't know what they're smoking, mate. Like,
it would be the best day of our Spurs supporting lives.
Correct.
That's what it would be. And Ange would have brought that to us. That's the reality.
Yeah. It will be the best day of our Spurs supporting life in probably the worst season Premier League campaign of our Spurs supporting life.
Also fair. Also fair. That's it.
You can't make that shit up, though, can you? This is Tottenham Hotspur.
That's the trophy we've been begging for could potentially come in a season where we've been at our worst, which is just classic Tottenham. Just classic Tottenham. But also, that is basically would spit in the face of all the fans previously who've said, I don't care about top 4, I only want a trophy. And then it's like, okay, here you go then. If you don't care about top 4, here's 17th in the trophy. You happy now? Like,
Sim, both me and you both said we won't take the Europa League in 17th. We said that at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, but now I would.
But like people like Brian, he said he would.
And now he won't.
And now he won't. So, I mean, it's just mental. It's just mental. But look, that is your comments. Big up to each and every one of you that participated this week. We'll see you all again next week for another round of YouTube comments. But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.